Let me show these suckers how to ball out here. Oh, man, let's get this together here. Oh, layup. Oh, shot. Oh, three. Oh, it's like Brick City out here. Mid-range. Oh, my goodness. I can't buy a bucket out here. I missed the whole damn basket. Oh, my goodness. What's going on, man? My game is looking trash. Oh, here we go. Black Power Media shirt. Now we cooking. Tree. I'm taking on a tree of y'all with these right here. Between the legs. Oh, my goodness. Behind the back. Layup. Oh, did he just do a reverse? He is in beast mode out here. I ain't got to look. It's falling. Oh, my goodness. This guy is going 3, 2, 1. Kobe. Nice. Black Power Media, baby. Nice. Empower yourself. Go get you some of that Black Power Media again. Right here, blackpowermedia.org. Yeah.
Saturday
with Renee. Yeah. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Saturdays with Renee, featuring Renee and Jared here on BPM. What's up, sis? How you feeling?
Good morning. I'm good. It's week 3 of my 3-week job, so we're at the tail end of the
No, it's all
December
good.
version.
It's
But
all
I'm
good.
I'm as good as can be expected, given the world and
given the topic today that I know we're going to get to. So welcome all the remixers, like, share, subscribe, put this in your socials, join the platform. All the links are in the show description. Support via Patreon if you can. A lot of projects coming up, a lot of things happening around here. So again, welcome everybody. And we have a very special show again today, full docket. And to help us get through it, we have no other than my personal favorite activist, philosopher, political theoretician, and organizer, Dhoruba Bin-Wahad.
I feel like you speak for both of us with that one.
I feel like I speak for a lot of people on that. But D, welcome back to the platform. It's good to see you again. How you feeling? You got to unmute. Uh-oh, we still don't hear you yet. Did I mute you? Unmute.
He's still muted.
I think you still muted.
Okay, there you go. My bad.
There you go.
I was trying to find my revolutionary backdrop, man, but I can't seem to find it, man.
Hey, well, it's all good. I think, whatever you're standing in front of automatically becomes a revolutionary backdrop.
I don't know about that, man. I'm in front of a white wall now, man. I don't know if that's revolutionary or if that's the wall you get shot at. So I don't know about all that. But anyway, I think that one of the things that we started out with when you said that we should try to get together on the show was actually about the police union, wasn't it? And,
yeah, because sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, because go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Renee had been doing all this in addition to the other deep dives that she does. She was doing one where we started last week, and I didn't feel like I had given it its just due. So I was glad to have another week to deal with it. But this story that you were already aware of about the high price of unregulated private police training in New Jersey and that Atlantic City conference. Having gone back and read the full report, having watched some of the videos, Renee and I watched Do Not Resist, the documentary. We're going to talk about that. I'd like to show a couple clips from that. But in the context of all of that, Renee said, why not get Dhoruba to bring back to bring you back in the context of that, your discussion of police unions. So we reached out, you were available, and here we are. So that's the quick frame for today. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm down with that. But I think that one of the salient that illustrate how we have to single out the armed agents of the state as uniquely dangerous in these particular times to poor people and working people, is because I was just looking at this Jeremy Scahill interview where he says this is not a war against Hamas. I don't know if you heard that or if you saw that.
No.
Yeah, and he talks about how.
What did he say it was then?
Well, it's a war against it's a war against the Palestinian people. It's a war of extermination and genocide against the Palestinian people, and the techniques that it's using. The reason why I bring that up is because the training techniques that it uses, and I think he mentions this some of this in this interview on how the U.S. trains with and has given much of its expertise to U.S. Law enforcement. And how the dual citizenship of Americans and Israelis facilitates the going back and forth between U.S. military and the IDF, because Israel is, I believe, is the only country where you could serve in two armed forces at the same time. And so we need to really understand that the symbiotic relationship between the United States and Israel is more than just a symbolism and alliance of convenience. This is much more integral. We have to understand that some of the things that we discussed in the tip of the spear are part of the Israeli playbook in dealing with the Palestinians and the Palestinian movement and their people, and this is something that is not uncommon to European settler states. The United States was a European settler state, and if we look at even when we look at today, the recent hang up in the U.S. In the Congress about Ukrainian funds were hung up by the so-called extremist right in the Republican Party, because they wanted clauses in this funding to deal with the southern border and immigrations, and how immigrations is a national security problem for the U.S. just as important as Ukraine as far as they're concerned. In terms of Ukraine. And why is this? Look at the southern border. The southern border used to belong to Mexico. Texas, New Mexico, California, all of these territories were seized from Mexico. And what was Mexico? Mexico was a colony of Spain that it broke away. And so the U.S. has an identification with Israel that is far beyond just the fact that it's geopolitically advantageous for the U.S. to rely on the European settler state of Israel. Israel is the last of the European settler states that were established in the 17th and 18th century. This is the last settler state. European settler state. You can't find no other ones like this now. Okay, and it was created in 1948 as for the purpose that it's there now. And when we look at the auspices, the beginning of Zionism, it was started by a non-religious Zionist, Theodore Herzl, and then when we read about the Balfour document and we read why it came into existence, and in fact, who it was addressed to. The Balfour document, when it was written by the British Foreign Office, was directed to Rothschild. It was directed to one of the Rothschilds. because there was no way. They admitted that they're directing it to him because he has his finger on the pulse and on the finances of the Zionist movement in Europe. And we need to understand what was the purpose of the imperialists who were carving up the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century. What was the purpose of them promising to Theodore Herzl and European Jewry their own territory and land? The purpose of all of this was to get them the fuck out of Europe. That was the purpose. That they felt that the purpose of the anti-Semitic elites and ruling elites in Europe, after centuries of pogroms and killing Ashkenazi Jews since the Spanish Inquisition, and we need to understand what the pivotal role that the Spanish Inquisition played in creating the type of anti-Semitism that exists in Europe and existed in the Christian church and the Catholic church and amongst Christians. Okay, but the European Jewry in their respective countries believe that they were nationals of their respective countries. German Jews believed they were Germans first and Jews second. Okay, Belgian Jews believed they were Belgian Jews first and Jews second. Judaism was their religion. Their nationality was Belgian or German or whatever. Okay, but because of the economic role that they played in early mercantile capitalism and the industrial age, because of the accumulation of finance and capital and influence during the slave trade by Jewish owners and entrepreneurs, they were hated by many of the non-Jewish business class and elites in Europe, who stoked the anti-Semitism that we see in Europe today. So, when the Balfour Agreement was written, okay, granting the Zionists a homeland, and they finally decided on Palestine, it was by the grace of God, I guess, or the curse of God, that the Nazis came along in the interim. The Nazis came along. I believe Hitler ascended to power in 32 or 33 or something like that. Okay, and they were virulently anti-Semitic, and they believed in what? They believed that Germany and Europeans were a master race. They believed in the white supremacist construct that the European civilization had fashioned for 300 years. You got to remember, in all of the institutions of higher learning out of medieval Europe and all of this thing, the Europeans had a distinct view of the world, and that distinct view of the world was this dual vision, this fractured view of humanity, that their melanin deficiency was somehow made them superior and not inferior. And they used that melanin deficiency in order to delineate or separate themselves from the people that they were conquering, the lands that they were stealing, and the lives that they were exterminating. Because Europe has always viewed itself as over and above the rest of humanity, as better than the rest of humanity, as being the center of civilization of humanity. And once they steal your land and they murder your people and they commit genocide, they establish a nation that's what? Dedicated to human rights. And it's dedicated to their human right. Their human rights. It ain't dedicated to the human rights of the people they just exterminated. So we need to understand that Canada, the United States, Australia, and there's a couple of others. They were European settler states, just like Israel. And they carried out the same type of denigration and dehumanization of the native people. You remember the old trope, the only good Indian was the dead Indian, that they were all savages, that they ran around raping white pioneer women and cutting their scalps off in their barbaric rituals and all of this stuff. We've been there and did that. We've seen all of this. So the Israelis are doing nothing but playing from an old settler playbook. And this is one of the reasons why the West has a problem saying anything or acting on it. Because they end up, this is what they do. This is how they are. This is who they are. This ain't like, you know, they're trying to make like, oh, come on, man, don't do it like this because you got mass media. Man, you just bombing people into oblivion and killing people in hospitals. Come on, man. You know, before mass media, we could have did this shit and said it was the native people that slaughtered everybody in the hospital. But now we can't do that. You see? So what I'm trying to say is that when we look at something, if we go from the police unions, from the false notion that the police are workers, which they're not, the armed agents of the state, and understanding that they are armed agents of a white supremacist state. This is not just any ordinary state. This was a European settler white supremacist state. And the thing that strikes the deepest fear in white folks today is that in the next 5 or 10 years, they're going to be a distinct minority. And so to them, the issue of immigrations and borders is an issue of life and death, is an issue of white skin privilege, them maintaining their hegemony and their power and losing it to people of color. And for those Black Africans, activists and analysts who come in and say some dumb shit like, why should we be concerned about what's happening in Palestine, or how are we, why would we be concerned about the borders, about immigrants into borders and Haitians not being able to come into this country, because all they're going to do is create another minority and put them ahead of us, and they're going to have more power than us. So, that ain't got nothing to do with us. We have to understand that this America was and is a white supremacist construct. And capitalism, the economics of capitalism have gone into reinforcing and maintaining the power paradigms of that white supremacist construct. And the religion that we talk about, evangelical Christianity, the religion of white supremacy, the development of white supremacy as an ideology goes all the way back before Europe started coining the term white man's burden. It was the white man's burden to civilize the world. And then once they exterminated everybody and civilized the world, they came up with human rights for themselves to protect, to stand for, and democracy to stand for. Well, we need to understand, I think it's very important right now, that when we're looking at the police in America, we're living in a police state. We know now, after 9/11, with all of the legislations that's been passed, that we're basically living in a police state that's increasingly weaponizing personal data and information to be used against the populace. The majority of people in the United States are not viewed by the state as potential law-abiding citizens. They're viewed by the state as potential terrorists and potential criminals. Okay, and we have to prove that we're not. Whenever our bank records are going over, whenever our background is looked over, we have to prove that we're not criminals, that we're not a threat, that we're in fact cool. It's not the other way around. So I think it's very important for us to understand that what's coming up with the trainings in the cop cities, the cop and the money. Look at where this money has come from to influence the city council in Atlanta. Look at the corporations that's funded this. Okay, look at the training programs that go on with the United States law enforcement establishment and other police agencies in Europe, and in Africa. Look at how the United States a program of arms shipment to Israel was supposedly halted. The small arms was supposedly halted recently, last week, because the Biden administration said that the guns were going to go to settlers, and right now Israeli settlers seem out of control, so we shouldn't be sending them assault rifles. Okay, but who's making the assault rifles? These are the same assault rifles that people are talking about banning for in the United States, and that are being used in mass shootings and mass killings. It's the same companies. It's the same it's the same gun industry. It's the same armaments industry that's supplying Israel with all of these weapons, and that are committing while they commit genocide and using these weapons. So I think it's very important for us to talk about this on this program. And why are Black attorneys, why are so-called activist attorneys, why are they afraid of challenging the police unions? Why are they afraid or reluctant or fearful of challenging the Israeli, the Zionist lobby that's controlling our politics, and it exerts more control and more influence over Black elected officials than the Black people do? I mean, we have that punk, what's his name, Hakeem Jeffries. We have this other dude that used to be the mayor of Jersey. What's his name? Cory Booker. You know, you have this other guy, Meeks. You know, these are the type of Negroes that we have representing us, and every last one of them is on AIPAC's tip. Every last one of them is taking money from AIPAC and talking about they stand with Israel. You see? So when we have buffoons like Mayweather sending aid to Israel, I mean, this dude sent his private jet with millions of dollars of aid, not to the Palestinians, but to the Israelis. This is a Black public figure. Does he get any censorship from the Black community? Does he get any criticisms from the Black community? No. So it's fashionable for these Negroes to flaunt their subservient politics in front of the Black community, but they can't stand up for one thing that Black people need, that we need in order to better our lives and our conditions. So I think that that Jared and Black Power Media and the other alternative media should bring on these so-called civil rights attorneys and ask them to come on and explain why, it's not possible, or it hasn't been possible, to use the courts as a means of educating people about the true nature of the police unions, about the police influence, using the police to undermine labor in the United States. I know this brother Hiram Rivera, I believe, in his NGO, they have volumes of documents on how the police unions have insulated themselves and infiltrated themselves by posing as working class, as workers. So this is
your answer,
something.
D. By the way, there's your answer. There's 485,300 reasons why Hakeem Jeffries hasn't said anything about this.
And I think, I don't know if people just weren't paying attention, but when they were pushing, when he was going to be the minority leader, he got up on the stage and said, Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel. I mean, I don't know how people now are like
I don't know if you can lower your camera. Sorry, Renee. We only see your eyes. I don't know if
that's you, Dhoruba.
Dhoruba, if you could
So
there you go. Thanks.
I don't know why people, because I hear people sometimes like, I don't understand. I'm like, the man's been saying the same thing for years. I don't know how you're confused about where his stance was going to be, because he was very, very clear about where his stance was going to be, and it had absolutely nothing to do with saving the lives of Palestinian people. So, this is all par for the course. I'm not surprised, and Dhoruba, what you said is very important about why these things were created. Somebody sent me a video, and I don't remember the name of the outlet, but they were like, we have to kick the U.S. out of the UN. And I was like, what? I'm like, they're permanent members. And they're permanent members because
the U.S. out of the UN.
created this situation to be exactly what it is, just like they created police to do exactly what they do. So the reason
Exactly. I mean, the United States and the United States and the Allied victors of World War II created the UN.
right, and they
It create
maintain
and they created the UN to do exactly what it's doing. And they made themselves permanent members of the Security Council in order to make sure that the UN will continue to do what it's doing.
Exactly.
And in fact, if we remember, one of the first UN policing operations after its creation in 1948 was its deployment to Korea in 1950. And its deployment to Korea in 1950 was at the behest, was so that the United States wouldn't have to go it alone. And this was the first major military intervention of the United States in the post-war era, was Korea. And the U.S. was deployed in Korea to do what it said it was trying to do, contain the so-called spread of communism. Because if we remember our history, it was 1949 that Mao Zedong marched into Peking. You know, it was 1949. Could you excuse me 1 second? Y'all can continue. Let me just get 1 second.
No problem. Go ahead.
So in this video, and I should have sent it to you, Jared, because he's going on about how awful and nothing that he said was incorrect about the US, right? And his point of the US having too much control and too much power is correct. But he made the mistake of saying that the UN was created to maintain peace in the world and the US is the problem. And that's where he has it wrong. The UN was created to ensure that the US always managed a political power within any decision across the globe that was going to interfere with the US's ability to maintain power and hegemony and to create chaos. So this idea that the US can be kicked out of the UN is nonsensical, because in order for Article 6 to even play a role in this in this situation, the US has to vote that and agree that they are part of a problem in order for the general body to, it's like we always talk about with getting your kids doing something wrong and expecting them to punish themselves, right? Like the UN has to agree that they are part of the problem in order for the US to be to be called, for anything to be called into question. It's never going to happen. It's just never going to happen because they have no interest in that. There's no viable interest in the US stepping up and actually, taking care of the rest of the world. They don't care about that. That's not what their purpose is, and it never has been.
Well, just because I know it got referenced in the chat, I'll throw it, and I appreciate that. I just didn't want to interrupt you or Dhoruba, but everything you just said and that he just said, of course, was indeed.
Yeah, listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
And in fact,
did you call bank? I called game.
That's still my favorite post-game interview. Shout out to Paul Pierce for that one. I mean, off the cuff. And back when he was with the Wizards and he hit that playoff winning shot, probably the last time they had a meaningful game.
Right.
And it was hit the backboard and went in. It was crazy. And then so yeah. But yeah.
The whole thing, and we were talking before when you dropped off, and I was just talking to Dhoruba, and we were talking about the fear, right? Like people, the fear of what is going to be the result of speaking up, right? So you have all these people, and I see it. I see it in conversations I have. I see it in people's posts. I see it everywhere. Like people totally afraid of what is going to come back to them if they just simply, support humanity, right? And people don't see the insanity of this, right? Like the absolute insanity in thinking that silence is the way, because it's, they can't fire everybody. So I feel like if everybody would be brave, right, we'd actually get somewhere, because they absolutely cannot fire everybody. But and I understand, right?
But this is why I think we need these. But I think this is why we need these what I'm just again calling these after party approaches to politics, because your point, it doesn't matter that overwhelmingly people in this country want A, B, or C. The people that they feel compelled to elect are working for someone else. So that's why that Princeton study that came out in 2014 that argued, based on their analysis of 20 years of electoral politics and voting, that this country is not a democracy, that it's an oligarchy, because it was something like, for 20 plus years, even if there was an 80+% desire among constituents for X, Y, or Z, if those they elected didn't agree or it went against what those funding them didn't want, they didn't do it. So that's the point. Most people don't want to support Israel in this way. Most people don't want that's why AIPAC, but it doesn't matter, because they are convinced through the propaganda of the Democratic Party and the false representation of civil rights history, and people died for us to have the right to vote and all this other nonsense, and the millions and in fact billions of dollars that are spent in creating that messaging that we have to support the Democratic Party. We end up electing people, or others will end up electing people that it doesn't matter. Yeah. But
and it's a hard position, right? So I don't know if you even know that a letter was released to the press that the Students for Justice in Palestine at Rutgers University has been suspended.
I didn't know that.
The student group found this out because the letter was leaked. So there wasn't even a conversation with the students before they made this decision. Within the letter, what's discussed is, they're disruptive and, the safety of other students and da. But this is what's happening, right? This is a public university. The State University of New Jersey
Morgan State
suspending students because they're not being silent.
Morgan State, the president said, put out the statement that pointed everybody to the policies of the university. At a state public institution, if you are not at a sanctioned event on campus, you can't use that event to speak out against university policy. And that was referenced specifically in response to all the protests on campus, not only supporting Palestine, but condemning Morgan's relationship with Israel. So the idea of free speech, all of it is. But I did, if I could, Dhoruba was talking a moment ago about this connection between Israel and the U.S. policing and the reduction of everyone to a potential threat, as Dhoruba said. And I, oh wow, I'm creating balloons now that's deep. But this part of the report was fascinating and speaks exactly to what Dhoruba's talking about. That again, New Jersey on paper had adopted all of these policies going back a decade, saying the police are not to be abusive. Long story short, the police have got to be better. And yet there is all of this public funding going to private training, where private contractors, all these former cops, former special forces, former this, former that, are selling training that explicitly contradicts what the state is saying is supposed to happen. And the governing body that licenses police in the state of New Jersey has no authority over these private institutions from teaching, has no oversight or governance over these institutions and what they teach. So you go to the academy and theoretically get the state support, the training, the basic training that says you're supposed to do right by your citizens, this, that, and the third, if in fact that's really what's going on. That's at least nominally what's supposed to be happening. And then immediately you get invited to Atlantic City to some conference and to some other private training that the state is funding, and they tell you the exact opposite, including this part here that speaks exactly to what Dhoruba was saying. that speakers throughout the conference made comments glorifying violence and the application of military techniques to policing. For example, non-law enforcement speaker Tim Kennedy made comments about loving violence and saying that telling people to be the calmest person in the room, but have a plan to kill everyone. He praised savagery and drinking out of the skulls of our enemies. They other SWAT and deputy sheriffs were talking about loving guns and shooting folks, not shooting folks, but shooting well. Sometimes you have to shoot folks. They talked about the incidents where one guy was talking about batting 500 over his career of 13 incidents of deadly force where 8 people were killed, where he shot 8 people and killed 4. So he's batting 500. And then I saw one of the video clips with this dude, Sean Pardazi, who is from Iran, I believe, somewhere in the so-called Middle East, where he mocks people from his own community, and condemns his own cultural background in justifying why they should be seen as threats to the police officers here in the United States. Benigno, the guy who's running this whole thing, this was saying the same thing. Go into every vehicle stop like you're going to die, or you might just live. And you might just live. Us versus them. This is some of the insignia that they're using. So, in other words, they're being explicitly told to ignore what they're being trained. Later in this report or elsewhere in this report, they're also talking more specifically about that overt saying, look, like, don't listen to your trainers. They're soft. They literally say the police training will get you killed because you're gonna follow advice that's gonna get you set up. So they're telling people that, and then, to your point, the state is really only upset because they're saying, okay, this is costing us all this money and we're having to retrain people, or we're having to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in fines because we're paying.
Right, because they did the math, and I think in like a 7-year span, it was almost $100 million they're paying in lawsuits.
Yeah.
Right. So they're looking at, you know, we're spending this much money, but it's costing us exponentially more because of the result of this training. And, you know, I said it to you before, like, if it wasn't for the fact that the money, I don't even know that the state of New Jersey would have cared. Right. Like, if you read to the end of the report, which I know you did, it's funny, you highlighted all the stuff that I have highlighted, by the way, just so you know. Towards the end of the report, they talk about, you know, that people have been complaining about this company since 2014. Right. Yeah. It's 2023. Y'all just now doing like a deep dive to figure out what these people are doing. But like, what is, you know, why is this okay? Why is it allowed? Right. And it's just, you know, to me, it's just more evidence of this is the problem, right? This is where, because you even have, despite all of this, they got quotes from departments and higher ups that said, like, this training is great. It gives them the practical things that they need to know that they don't get at the academy, right? So you have people also praising, right, this company for basically teaching officers to treat everybody like they're terrorists, and to treat everybody like they're the enemy, and to shoot to kill, and to hold people longer. And if people are wearing a hat, that means they're suspicious, and ask them for their social security number. And if they're weird about telling you, that means they're suspicious. Like, this is bullshit. Plain and simple. It's madness.
So, just as a slight trigger warning, I do want to show one of the clips from the videos that from the conference, just to add a little bit. So just a trigger warning, anybody, this is police and their grossest. And then I do want us to talk about do not resist, and I want to show a couple from there too. But check this is just Office of the State Comptroller investigated the October 2021 police training conference in New Jersey. The conference, held by private New Jersey-based police training company Street Cop Training, taught questionable police tactics and contained offensive and discriminatory content. Glorified the use of violence, promoted a warrior approach to policing. This directly contradicts and undermines a decade of police reform efforts in New Jersey. But this is a report from, to your point, this is from the comptroller, worried about the budget ultimately. But check some of this out here. Yeah.
I love what the fuck I do for a living. There's nothing else I'm good at. I love violence, I love fighting, I love shooting, and I fucking love freedom. It wasn't that long ago that we were drinking out of the schools of our enemies. Like, I'm gonna fucking murder this guy, then I'm gonna take his head, then I'm gonna cut his head in half, and then I'm gonna boil his skull, and then I'm gonna drink out of that skull. Fucking rad, right? I'm not sure the guy who's fucking recording you like, I am not a citizen of the United States under fucking Act 12, 6. Shut the fuck up, right? About to get pepper sprayed and fucking tased. Windows broken out, motherfucker.
We don't like treating turds, right? You're like, fuck them. The ambulance can take care of them, right? And I had a problem treating, gangbangers and the people that were the pieces of shit of society, right? I had a great mentor that told me, well, Sean, guess what? That's a live tissue lab, bro. Anytime you can come to one of these shitbags, absolutely do the best you can. Absolutely, because what if he gets hurt, right? Or she gets hurt, or he gets hurt, then I can perform that flawlessly because now I've had some reps in. Everybody get that? Everybody with me on that?
So this is them saying Jersey's been trying to embrace improvements and that all of this directly undermines what the state has been.
In the South,
this is the guy I was talking about.
West, South, wherever. You don't believe me? Run from Georgia State Patrol. You don't know what I'm talking about. Right? Run from me. Somewhere along the chase becomes neither confirm or deny there's some videos out there with me doing just that.
New Jersey spends millions litigating allegations of excessive force. In 2022, one excessive force case alone cost Jersey $10 million. In addition to glorifying violence, multiple presenters use videos and memes describing the 75-year-old black man as a monkey coming out of Trenton.
This guy pulls into a gas station, pops his hood up, gets out of his car. But yeah, in Jersey, we don't pump our own gas. They do it. Other people do it. So kind of like right from the beginning, I was a little concerned about it.
Ask your question. What's with the small rubber band? A little small rubber band. See that rubber band? Yeah. What's with the
facial expressions? That's all I want. This was just a couple of rubber bands and driving behavior. Look at his hand shaking.
Do you have an ID, sir? Okay, can I see an ID?
That's not an 18-year-old kid dressed like Jesus coming eastbound out of Trenton. It's a 75-year-old black man, a change in driving behavior, came into a gas station, and I'm like, what the fuck? And you know what? Shame on me, because I look in there and I'm like, oh, got a couple small rubber bands. And all I'm doing is asking, hey, what's up with that?
They've been making referrals to the Attorney General of Internal Affairs to address unacceptable conduct. Multiple instructors throughout the conference trying to work around that is basically what they're talking about. So yeah, that was just a little glimpse of what they're up to. And I saw the joke about that dude being the evil clone, my evil clone. That's messed up. That's messed up.
It is. That's wrong.
That's messed up. That's wrong. But and there's worse. That dude goes on in other videos. There's several videos that are linked in the report that he's happy to be the token Iranian or whatever. And but can we play a little bit from Do Not Resist?
Yes. Okay. So anybody who follows me knows that when I started, I tweeted when I first started watching it, because I just, for the life of me, could not understand how I ended up watching this movie, and how the movie was as old as it is, and basically confirms every single thing that we talk about with regard to police training and what they really think and what's really behind it. And I just wild. But yes, please do, because everybody else should be as grossed out as I was.
So there's just a little bit that's very similar to what we just saw. So again, a trigger warning. But again, the reason that this is probably my favorite that deals with this topic is because the filmmaker, again, and I went years ago, read a little bit about it. The filmmaker used his family is in the military and in the police. He's got all these connections, like a good white, and they thought that he's a good white boy going to do a good little documentary about the police. But all he ends up doing is just putting the camera on them. There's no narration. The only voices you hear are people who are being asked questions off camera in an interview style later in the thing, or who are out there in the streets protesting. But there's no, and you just get the police doing their thing. You get shots of them in Ferguson where you see people protesting, but then you see that he catches one of the white cops. I believe it was a woman talking to somebody, and just sort of happily talking about how all of this overtime was going to get her vacation, have her a hooked up vacation or something like that. And you get you just see the abuses, and then they also show scenes from some of these kinds of conferences that they go to. And what they're said. So what I'm going to try to do is just play it on my phone, because so we can avoid any copyright issues, because I know we can't stream it just straight from Amazon. So it's not going to be the best quality, but it's only a couple of minutes here. And this is at one of those conferences where the police are being encouraged to understand their importance in the role in society, and especially given what Renee and Dhoruba have just said, this is particularly important. So I'm just going to go ahead and expand my screen. And
the man of the city. Heard of the mountain man, the frontiersman? Nobody talks about frontiersmen anymore. We still talk about policemen. You are to your city, your county, your state, but the frontiersman was the frontier. You fight violence. What do you fight it with? Superior violence. Righteous violence, eh? Violence is your tool. Violence is your enemy. Violence is a realm we operate in. You are men and women of violence. You must master it, or it will destroy you, yeah? Look, I've been on the road for 18 years. People know me, they trust me. I get information. I ask questions other people won't ask. Cop says, knock down, drag out, fight, cuff them and stuff them. Finally get home at the end of the shift, and cop says, gunfight, bad guys down. I'm alive. Finally get home at the end of the incident, and they all say, the best sex I've had in months. Both partners are very invested in some very intense sex. There's not a whole lot of perks that come with this job. You find one, relax, and enjoy it.
so that's just one that gives you, I think.
Yeah.
So you start thinking, for me, I start thinking about, Frank Wilderson's argument and the libidinal economy and all of this, and how killing probably mostly black and brown people leads to heightened sexual experiences for the police and their partners. I'm thinking of that. There's that short story. I can never remember the name of it, but that Baldwin wrote years ago, from the perspective of a white man who performs a lynching. And it starts with his own sexual inadequacy in bed with his wife. Then he goes out and lynches a man and brings home body parts in a jar.
Right. And it's not, y'all know how much I talk to my mom. So I was telling her, it's not that I'm not watching this and I'm like, oh my God, this is what they think. I already know it's what they think, right? I already know it's what they're doing. I already know that's what's behind this whole thing. But to see it, right? To see it so blatantly laid out, right? There's another part where he talks about, and it's that same, and people be aware that the man who is in that presentation wrote the book that is required reading, right? This
Right.
isn't like a a private like side thing, right? Like this is literally the person who wrote the book and does the presentations that they are expected to read and to follow out in the academy. So he talks about like getting off at the over like the over high, you know, the over high, the whatever, the drive overs or whatever, and like looking out at your territory, right, and letting your cape fly in the wind, and like it is the bizarre.
No, that was what I got that. I was going to show that next.
Okay, good, because I was like, it's to see it, right? It's the in your face of it, so that people can understand the depth of the depravity of this system.
We are at war, and you're at the front line trooper. And folks, I want you to understand something. When they come to murder the children, the individuals who tried to disarm our cops will be hunted down. And across the nation, they will be attacked. They will be spit on. They will be driven deep into their slimy little holes so they'll never come out again. In the very near future, the idiots trying to disarm our cops. Folks, there ain't nobody in Mexico right now complaining about militarization of police. You understand? There ain't nobody in Russia complaining about militarization of police. In the very near future, you will be vindicated. The bad news, the wolf is at the door. Very bad times are coming. Good news, you have job security. Yeah? Because the world desperately needs what you have to give.
Oh, I think I missed it. Hold on. I think that was at the preview. That's how there was one more. My bad. That was
But
I know the part you're talking about. Yeah.
But even that, the glee, right? Like you always have a job because you know there's always people to kill. Right?
Yeah, hold on. Let me turn the sound down here real quick.
Yes, Latif, these are actual seminars. These are actual seminars that are run by the person who wrote the book that is used. Is it the FBI training that it's the required reading for?
It's FBI training. Yep. And he goes all over at the time, like you said, for 20 years, he goes all over the country speaking to police forces and government agencies, FBI included. Yep. Oh yeah. I thought that was the part where he did it, but that was the last part. But yeah, I know. And then there was a part where the people in Concord, Massachusetts, are like, we see what they're doing. They're militarizing because we're not legally allowed to have the military in our home communities. They're using the 1033 program to put to militarize the community and the police, and to put a local military in the community against what the Constitution says is supposed to be legal.
Right. And you know, there's clips from the documentary is very interesting. And the fact that it's, you know, almost 10 years old at this point is, you know, shockingly like, so this has been in existence all this time and I've never seen it. But it really points out, the documentary itself really gives a visual confirmation of the problem, right? Because people often do not understand that the problem is that you cannot fix a rotten tree by like putting flowers on it, right? Or planting pretty things around it, or, you know, trying to see if you can like save the branches, right? It is rotten from the inside. The ground is rotten. The water that they're using to feed it is rotten. The air surrounding it is rotten. The entire thing is rotten. And what these visuals do, what this latest report from New Jersey did, what this documentary does, it clarifies it for people who doubt it. Right. So people who say, nah, that's not, these are, you know, they're bad apples. That's not what they're trained to do. They're not doing the thing that they're trained to do. But it is. They're doing exactly what they're trained to do. You just don't know it, right? Because what you're listening to is the same propaganda that tells you, that it's a bad guy. That's why, that's why he didn't follow directives, right? He didn't listen to orders. He didn't do what he was supposed to do when the officers instructed him to to follow whatever 8,000 things they yelled at him in the 20 seconds that they expected him to figure out which one it was that he was supposed to do in that moment, she was supposed to do in that moment. And it's egregious, right? It's absurd. And it is really important that people stop promoting the lie of the bad apple, of the retraining, of the community boards, of the, if we just hire the right ones. None of that is going to work. None of it is going to work, because this is what they are trained to do. And to be able to just point it out and to show, like, this is it. This is what's really happening that no one is talking about. It's,
Oh man, I don't know why I cannot find that part, but yeah, I don't know. I thought, but the part you're talking about, he's telling them, that guy is giving a speech and he's telling them to on their way home, get out of the car at the bridge and stand on the bridge and look over their city and let their, as you said, let their cape wave, fly in the breeze or whatever, the wind,
whatever. Yeah.
and know that they're super heroically saving and protecting all of the, as all those people go about their daily business and do their thing. Just take comfort in knowing you've provided this for them. Right. And the other part of that documentary is the ride-alongs, where you just see them in the car on the way to raid a house. You see them talking the way it doesn't matter whatever they learned. It really was DC Joe Black. Like he was saying, you are Batman. I mean, he was basically drawing that. And of course, Batman works with the police. So it's a perfect in many ways. But he is, I mean, he's saying it's going to get worse. And so it doesn't matter what is officially required. It doesn't matter what is nominally said to be happening in this training.
And it doesn't matter what gets put out as, these are the reforms. These are the things that we want them to do, right? Because while all of that is happening, you are at the same time paying these same officers to go to Atlantic City and be told to do the exact opposite. One of the things that I think I was most, let me not say most, one of the things that disturbed me from that report was the explanation of the, the RAS list, the RAS list, when you're pulling, pull cars over.
Yeah.
That there's this list of things to look for that should
People are asking for the name of the doc. I just want to put it up there real quick. Yeah.
That should indicate what, when a police officer should pull a car over. And it's real, like if they don't have an easy pass.
Mm-hmm. And it everything contradicts itself. So I'm going to pull it back up here in a second, but it's if a person, it's like if a person smiles, they're a criminal. If they don't smile, they're a criminal. If they look at you, they're a criminal. If they don't look at you, they're a criminal. If hold on, let me find that for you here, because that was another fascinating part of the report. This report is crazy just on its own. And then to your point, as we keep pointing out, that it was only really put together because it was pointing out how much it's costing the state. But yeah, the RAS checklist, what was it again that it stands for? I can't remember, but
I don't remember. It's in there somewhere, but either way, it's nonsense, right? And it literally, like, you can point to the reasonable
suspicion
factors,
factors. Yeah.
right? And you can point to all of the things that it tells you to do, are all of the random, like, the things that people just do while driving, right? Like, some people look around, right? Some people wear a hat. If you're, if you're driving a Uber and you're super conscientious and you're on the way to pick somebody up, your face might be covered, right?
But
Like,
it says if you're wearing a hat that covers your face, you're a criminal. If you remove your hat, you're a criminal.
you can't win. You can't win, right? And I think one of the presentations that they pointed out is somebody who's part of the Boston Police Department, which we highlighted, what was that, last week? Because they just got their new contract. And, there was an in-depth report in Boston about how often they were pulling over Black and brown people and how few times those things resulted in any kind of actual incident, right? Like, there was no reason for them to be pulling these people over or stopping these people aside from the fact that they were Black and brown.
If you light up a cigarette, it's a big fucking deal because you're trying to hide an odor. If you lick your lips, it's to lubricate lies. Those who create awkward closeness or awkward distance while being interviewed.
Crossing your arms when you stand outside of the car. Yeah. It's just...
If you ask to repeat the question or if you claim you don't understand, you're a problem. And definitely if you say, I need to see the supervisor.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, every Karen on earth is able to call for a supervisor without a problem.
Well,
they always want the supervisor.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was the one I mentioned last week, but didn't really give the context of that. They were talking about a video clip where someone gets pulled over, but you don't see the context of the event. And it's being used by that guy Benigno as a way to explain why you should basically do whatever the hell you want to do. And they also talk about using tactics to delay the event of the pulling over.
And so just hold people hostage on the side of the road. I mean, somebody in there, it actually says play Tetris while the driver
That's right.
waits.
That's right. They said they went and played Tetris, and they referred to forgive my language, but referred to in that moment saying he went back to his car to finger fuck his laptop and play Tetris. Mm-hmm. But the point I'm just bringing up here is that you were saying here that this woman crossed her arms, was at a traffic stop, she's smoking a cigarette. So all of these things made her guilty. And then when in fact the supervisor of the officer shows up on camera and says that they have to let the person go because there's no reason for them to be pulled over, Benigno refers that's where he refers to the supervisor as a fucking idiot. And then goes through his checklist as to why the supervisor should have detained that person, and then goes on to explicitly say, this is why you should be insubordinate with your leadership. You should not trust your leadership. You should not trust the academy. You should not trust the senior officers at the whatever. You should just do your own thing because they're working against you and they're likely to get you killed. In fact, they said 90% of people trained in the academy are going to be hurt by that training. So I think Dhoruba's ready to come back so we can bring Dhoruba back up here and we'll forgive whoever called you away from the show and just assume that it was really important business because, I mean, goodness gracious. No, I'm just playing.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's no problem, man. Yeah.
I'm sorry, fellas. I'm really sorry, but
no, it's okay.
Things in Africa ain't going exactly as I wish. I'm gonna have to run away in another minute because I try to plan these things, and that's why I tell you, like when we have a set of time, I try to plan it so I don't be interrupted. You know, in fact, I'm doing this at my place, so that's one of the reasons why I get interrupted. I usually go to a 5-star hotel and do this, then I can't get interrupted. You know, but here everything is.
It's all good. We appreciate the time you have, and with whatever time you have left, if there's something you want to make sure you get said, go ahead, and you're always welcome back. You'll be, whether here or on the platform.
I'm sure you all carried it. I think we understand clearly that, or the masses should understand, and the purpose of bringing these types of legal actions in the court is not because we expect to win, but to educate the community about the true role of policing and public safety and what their role is in a capitalist democracy, so-called democratic fascism. We have to understand who these people are, because the rise of fascism in the West, the rise of white supremacy, the resurgence of white supremacy in the West is not a coincidence, and it comes at a critical time in empire, in the U.S. Hegemonic empire. It comes at a crucial time when domestic policing becomes very important to maintain to maintain and to control people, and to control how people protest, how they organize, and how they relate. And we could see this by the thousands of people that have taken to the streets to support the Palestinians, and still how anyone that speaks out in any type of institution or any type of official or organizational capacity is immediately censored and immediately attacked for supporting the Palestinians, because the narrative is unraveling. And that's the purpose of taking these class actions, is to unravel the narrative, so that in 2 years' time, in the off national election year, we can go to our people and say we want to put community control of public safety on the ballot. And people understand now what you mean by public safety, and what you mean by controlling the police, and how other things won't work, and what the police really do. Okay, before, if we did this, like at the height of the hashtag movements, if we talked about community control of the police, you have old people in the community saying, well, if we call 911, who's going to come? Nobody's going to come, because they don't understand that we're already living in a police state, and that the facade of freedom that we think that we enjoy can be immediately circumscribed and discarded by the whims of any of these armed agents of the state in blue costumes. And you all were just pointing that out. They do what the fuck they want to do, you see, and there's no way to hold them accountable, because we don't have community control of public safety. And we don't have community control over who polices us, how they police us, and what type of methodologies that they use in our community. Okay, because we don't have no control over that. In fact, the police unions are the ones that the politicians have to appease in order to get elected. The police unions are the ones that they cater to, not us. So we need to educate black folks that the police are armed agents of the state. Yeah, they may have a right to have their own fraternities and guilds and associations, but they're not workers, and that therefore they shouldn't be treated like workers. Their unions shouldn't have clauses in their charter that permits them to get away with murder, with assaults, with all these types of things, these extra constitutional guidelines that seems to work for them and don't work for nobody else. And the police are not accountable for their actions. They're not individually liable. And it's because of the protections of the police unions and all of this. So we need to understand why the police are the way they are, why at this particular point in time it's very important for the governments of the West to have control over a national police force. And the United States doesn't have a national police force. So it uses the unions and the various court rulings in order to bring the police under federal and national control. fascism, the rise of fascism historically has always required a national police force a domestic national police force, in order to begin implementing its control over the masses of people and intimidating them. We see that with Germany. We saw that with Italy. We saw that with the rise of Franco in Spain. So there is a need for a national police force, but the United States doesn't have a national police force. The only thing that approaches that is the FBI. And then they don't have domestic law enforcement responsibilities like the local police or the local sheriff does. So putting all of these police forces together in terms of their communications and the militarized training and all of this stuff gives the United States government an effective national police force. That's what this militarized training is all about. That's what these cop cities are all about, to regularize the training of the police so that they're able to perform as a domestic and national army under one command and under one control, you see. And so I know y'all went over some of that while I was gone. So this is all I really had to say, why it's necessary for us to organize this united front to curb the militarized police and call for the decentralization of law enforcement's command and control structure and community control of public safety.
Dhoruba, is there any, so, you know, the upside of this badness that's happening with the silencing and the, we're not going to hire these people, is there any conversation about trying to utilize some of these recent law school graduates who have found out that trying to be people who speak truth are going to get you in trouble? Is there any attempt to communicate with any of these youngins to see if they would be interested in participating in any of this process, since they are, you know, they're not going to get their jobs at the fancy law schools because they were too honest?
Well, absolutely. I mean, in order to deal with law students, you have to have a faculty. You have to have a faculty of law professors or law experts who are willing to begin to organize some students into some type of ad hoc committee to do these things. So we don't have a law firm. We don't have the National Conference of Black Lawyers is not doing this. The Center for Constitutional Rights is not doing this. The closest thing that we have that I know of is a suit that was brought by the Nation of Islam against
ADL. Is this the defamation case? Okay.
Yeah,
$5 billion.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Did he say $5 billion? No.
Yeah, but they're not suing them. They're not bringing a action against them based on what we're talking about. They're building this class action based on the fact that they're being accused as anti-Semites,
right?
And that they're not, and that these people from the Defamation League are in cahoots, you know, to bring them down and tell. They're not bringing the type of lawsuit.
Yeah, and what about the international group of attorneys that they're trying to bring the lawsuit on behalf of the Palestinians? Do we know if there are any attorneys that are involved with that are U.S. based?
Well, I don't know any of the attorneys. I saw that recently, that suit, and I thought that was a good move. And I thought that, you know, I was hoping that, you know, they would include that. I haven't actually saw the actual filing, the actual civil complaint.
I'll send you the link with the information, because we talked about, I think, like 2 weeks ago, right, Jared? We talked about that. The law.
I don't remember when, but yeah.
And it's my understanding is there's thousands of attorneys that they kind of have on tap. So I don't know.
I would like to
fight that battle.
I would like to have a sit down and talk with these attorneys on a Zoom or something, because I can't understand how, you know, but when you don't have a movement, it's not possible for the politics to lead the legal front. But when you have a movement, then you have lawyers that come forward to try to advance the principles and the strategy of that movement in the courtrooms. You know, that's what happened with the Civil Rights, Voting Rights Act. That's what happened in the Panther 21 case and the Chicago 7 case. It was the politics of the defendants that led the defense, not just a law and legal precedent. And I don't think we have that anymore because we don't really have that type of movement that has that type of cogent analysis and stuff. Give me 1 second. I have to do one thing. I'm coming. 1 second.
That's all
please.
good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
He can do whatever. Look, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, he's on high demand. We get it. It's all good.
But I mean, that CCR complaint. I am curious, especially since they're specifically going after Biden and the U.S. government. I mean, they'd have to have people in the country, no? Like they'd have to in order to even bring that forward. Could they do that internationally without someone in I'm not versed enough in legal matters. And then I also wonder, like, the Equal Justice Institute, Brian Stevenson, they've got a bunch of interns and stuff down there. I wonder if that could be a plug. Something has to happen. Like something's got to give. And I feel like we're at a pivotal moment right now because more now, I think, than ever in any time that I've seen, like being able to witness it, right? That the rules don't apply here, right? The rules just simply don't apply here. And as I see more people in the international community calling out the U.S. and their complicity in this genocide, I just wonder if it can't be utilized on all fronts, to be able to say they're killing people here. I mean, there's been a genocide here. What year was it that they charged genocide? What year was that? Was that Paul Robeson? I can't remember what year it was.
Yeah, I can't either, actually.
Maybe the chat knows. Does anybody know what year they charged genocide?
Yeah, what year was that? Somewhere in the 40s, 50s, right? Somewhere late 40s, early 50s. Before Bang Dung, right?
I think so. I mean, and in 21, that international commission released a report. Then in 22, another letter was signed on by another group of people saying it's still happening. Now they got another report that they just released this year earlier to the UN that says, racist police violence. And all of these things are linked, right? Like when you look at, anyone who saw the recent report of the three people who were released and the Israeli police killed them and did not realize they were killing their own people, because even though they had white flags waving, they weren't sure if they were really, on their side or not. So they just killed them. And when you think about, that's exactly what police do here, right? Well, we were fearful for our lives, right? We didn't know. Did you see the video? And I wish I had remembered to find it before we got started. Of the police were trying to pull somebody over, and this big white dude, and he was like screaming at the officer, and the officer's backing up. He tried to tase him, and in the end, the dude got in his car and drove off. Like he got in his car and just drove off. Like, I see it, right?
That's the mic drop on white privilege right there. You just play that video and go home.
I mean, and he was. I mean, if it had been me, I would have been afraid, right? Like I would have been scared of dude. And the chat is saying 51 or 52. The chat
right,
is saying.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
And so, all these things, it's clarifying, right? Like they're capable of not killing somebody. They do it all the time when they choose not to, in all kinds of situations where people are very much a threat, and they're able to, to not shoot to kill. But don't be a 10-year-old who calls 911 because your mother's afraid of her partner, because the police gonna come into your house and shoot you in the chest. So
Yeah, this was that's an important and unfortunately real and repeated story. And as Freedom Power points out here, there was another attempt to charge genocide in 2021. Jericho Movement, Spirit of Mandela, People's Senate. That's right. And if you missed it, check out the Remix Morning Show from Thursday, where members of that coalition joined us to talk about a forthcoming documentary on Mumia.
That's going to be in Manhattan. It's going to be in Harlem tonight. I'm trying to see if I can.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out, can I weave my way out? Can I make it? But
yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that would I look forward to eventually seeing that. And but you know. And folks, we will be out of here well before 1 o'clock, making way for Warrior class. So fret none. And please make sure you check all the other offerings on the platform, like, share, subscribe, join our Patreon. All the links are in the show description. And I think we got Dhoruba back.
Yeah, man.
So welcome back.
I really apologize to the listeners and to you guys. I didn't expect all this stuff to come up right now.
There's no need to apologize. We appreciate
all good.
And you, whenever you can come back, come on back.
I look all crazy. I look all crazy and shit, man. I don't you look crazy. Man, listen, man. I need to. Damn. I'm looking kind of. I'm looking Majnun here, man. This is embarrassing.
I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man.
Come on,
Nobody's
man.
worried about that.
I know y'all trying to assuage my anxiety and shit, man. But
it's all good, man.
And it's
all
a
good.
lot. And it's a lot. Like, and I know, because I'm in multiple spaces, that you got a lot of people calling you for a lot of different things and trying to get your feedback, your presence, and your input, and
yeah, man. But you see, people never ends. People here, it seems like it's a matter of, every time they call us, a matter of life and death. It don't be no in between and shit. It's like, I don't know, man. Africa is.
Like you said,
I just wish they get this war on and get it started. Let's get this party started, man, and stop faking in the game. All of this drama, and we are the world shit. They gonna take Cory Booker out there and lynch that nigga up just like they do any other nigga when the shit hit the fan. And Orange Man. I mean, your homeboy, that born again racist Biden. I mean, come on, man. This dude, this is a good likelihood, 70 to 30%, that he ain't gonna make it to the election. You gonna pick up the news, breaking news. Homeboy got froze up on Netflix somewhere, and then that's how they found him, with his mouth open and the TV change in his hand, and he caught a stroke watching Netflix. You see what I'm saying? And so you don't have to worry about that cracker. Meanwhile, the Orange Man is slipping into darkness slowly but surely. His monkey ass might not be around. And then you have to ask yourself, look at that. What's that old cracker's name? The one that goes blank on the screen. What's it? Mitch McConnell.
Oh, Mitch McConnell. Yeah.
I mean, the U.S. Senate looks like a geriatric home, man, and you got all these old tire crackers, and they all are insane. Because look at the U.S. foreign policy. Look at what's coming out of Washington D.C. That's what was it? What is the Greek saying, that the gods make them sane, those they intend to destroy? Mm-hmm. Look at this leadership that you got of the empire. You got, what's the name, talking about bomb of Iran? What's that? The little punk's name, the little white boy. What's his name?
That's too vague.
I know. I'm like,
Yeah, I know there's a whole bunch
Yeah,
of
that could be a whole lot of people.
But he's got a voice. What they call him? He's been he's been on Trump's jockstrap, man, for a minute.
DeSantis?
No, the other one, the short one, the one that used to be, the one that was running, that was scared and running into the basement when they was taking over. What's his name? He's talking about bombing around into the Stone Age. This is the U.S. Senate.
Oh, I mean, is it Kevin McCarthy?
Josh Hawley.
Oh, the other one. Who?
Josh Hawley.
No.
Josh Hawley. That's that punk that was running through the Capitol. He was running.
Lindsey Graham.
All
right, there we go. The punk ass cracker roll call. We was gonna get there eventually.
Man, this dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, yeah. No, it's all good, Dhoruba. We're about to start moving towards the close anyway, because we got to make way for Warrior class at 1:00 anyway. And
what time is it now?
It's almost 12:30, so we only got about 30 minutes left anyway. We don't have to do 2 hours. Like we're not bound by that. We just
run. Let me try to make this last run real quick,
okay,
because I'm coming.
All right. So we'll hold on for another.
You gotta love Dhoruba, man. And he's right. I wish I had access, right? Like I tell people all the time, and I get laughed at sometimes because I'm like, it's not like I know a lot of people, right? Like I don't have no money. I'm not running anything. Like I'm doing my little bit to try and like educate, right? Like give people information and all these things. And I really wish I had access to some means of even one person who can start moving the needle a little bit on his idea, because he's right? Until you bring it to a system in a way that is really going to highlight the problems in a way that it cannot be dismissed, right? When you bring a full court case with evidence and all the things, it makes it, it can do something, at least bring some eyes to a problem that people have been really trying to talk about for long enough now, that people should know better, right? So I'm I don't know. I'm gonna keep looking.
Listen, real quick, not to do production live on air, but I did notice, we started building a lot as the Post-West Review, Renee's Post-West Review. And I see that Kalanji's got Jill Stein and iMWiL Baraka coming on the 20th, which is a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to request that we watch that and see if we have any thoughts about it for the following Saturday when we meet again on the 23rd.
Sounds good.
Just to add that to whatever else you got coming up on the run sheet. But I noticed that Jill and iMWiL are coming back, and I wanted to and I thought it would be interesting to see what they have to say. And what updates they might have from the Green Party perspective.
Yeah.
And
I really want us to start having a conversation about this after party, right? Like I am adamant that part of the problem with organizing around electoral politics is organizing around trying to get people to vote, right? And I really think we have to start organizing to make the vote matter, right? Like organize your community so that when your community wants something, they have found a viable way to get that thing that they want to get, And there's so much missing. There's so much in between that's missing, right? Like people always just go straight to the vote and straight to, every 4 years or every 6 years for Senate, every 2 years for Congress, and everybody's always focused on that piece. And there's really no focus on making it matter, right? Like, why does it matter if people feel like no matter, just like they said, like the majority of the country wants a ceasefire for as little grand scheme, like just having a ceasefire without stopping the occupation, right? It's not, I don't know if people are fully seeing that there's something missing there, right?
And then by the time you get to a ceasefire, who's left? I mean, they are, I was looking at it this morning, they are, to the point you raised earlier, they're trying to wipe everybody out to the point where they're killing their own people. They're like, oh, well, collateral damage, because if we got to kill a few of our own to get these Palestinians, so be it. Dhoruba's back with us. But by the way, I'd also real quick, I'd also suggest what I'm going to do anyway, speaking of Kalanji's stuff, I'm going to go back and rewatch the debate I did with Greg Carr. I usually don't like to watch my videos, but I want to go back and look at that.
That was the one about voting, right?
About voting. Because it's the same arguments that are already coming back up now. And I wanted to go back
because they come back every 4 years with this same nonsense. Every 4 years. This is the most important vote of your lives. We got to make sure democracy don't die. And, it's always the same.
So, I mean, one of the points, one of the points that I've been trying to make, and Dhoruba, this is a good way to bring you back in, I think, is to say, the after party and a different engagement with electoral politics means we should have, as Glenn Ford used to say, the bright line agenda items, platform items that we want to stand on and we won't get rid of. And one of them we should start maybe adding would be, we're not voting for anyone that's not going to aggressively advocate for a destruction of police unions or a rebranding of police as armed agents of the state and not as workers. That should be something that should be on an agenda. If you want our vote, this has to be something you're advocating.
And that'll make it neat because nobody's going to get the vote at this rate, but I'm okay.
That's what I meant by this election year, given the contradictions that are going to be involved in this election coming up. You have the orange man who might have a couple of felonies hanging on him, running for office. And then you have the Supreme Court now that is reviewing his eligibility. There's a good chance that they might say, well, he's good to go, And then you have to ask yourself, so where's the lone assassin when you need one? Where's the lone crazed assassin, when we need one? We can't find one, you see? And so you have him. God knows where we would be at by next November in terms of the way things are going now. There's a good likelihood we'll be embroiled in a serious regional, if not a global war between now and November. The Black community doesn't have a real radical militant grassroots movement as an alternative to the duopoly political corporate parties. We don't have grassroots leadership that has any type of strategic or abolitionist vision. Everybody's into their own sectarian space, advocating their own thing. We don't have a united front against white supremacy and fascism. We don't even have a strong abolitionist movement. We have people that go in and out of abolition, whether they're talking about when they're talking about reparations or if they're talking about voting rights. I mean, how many times have we revisited the right to vote? I mean, we're fighting struggles that we've already won. We're fighting battles that we already won, and we're just inventing new ways, new methods of defeat. you know, and the enemy has institutional memory. They know we won these battles, so they rebrand and reframe the question and use our own language to deal with it, you know. So we have what we used to call consciousness when you were woke. Now we have DeSantis talking about what woke means. You see, so so we're not at all prepared for prime time. It doesn't look good for the home team. You know, it's seriously. Seriously.
It's all good, my man. It's all good. It's all good. We can
just don't come. I'm gonna smack the shit out you. Come here. Come over here and get this smack. Come on,
man. You gotta. All the new studies, Dhoruba, say you gotta. Dhoruba, you gotta love him, man. You gotta.
You know how big this dog is. You want to see how big this dog is? He's a puppy. You want to see how big he is? Oh, you don't want to get on television now, but you could bark and get on and make noise. Now you reluctant to get on the screen. Come here. Look at this guy. I want you to see what I'm talking about here. See, now don't try to look at. Can you see this guy?
That's a big. Look at that cutie. Look at that cutie.
He's a puppy.
Look at that cutie.
Cutie,
you can't be mad at that, man.
You can't.
I'm not mad at him. It's just this dude think that he be running shit, you know? And I mean, this dude just start barking 2 o'clock in the morning, like, get up, man. What y'all doing? What y'all sleeping or something? What's the problem here? You know? I mean,
we had that issue last night. He heard, ours heard somebody outside, heard an animal outside and was...
Homeboy don't be hearing nothing, man. He just be dreaming or something, man. He just wake up barking and what is your problem? And then he gonna get mad at us that we want to go back to sleep. You want to get upset. His girlfriend that spoiled your ass. That's why he spoils. It ain't me that did it. She spoiled his ass. Yeah. You know.
So is there any so we were just talking about trying to educate not about just voting, right? But actually about getting people to understand how they gain some kind of ability within their own communities to do the thing, right? So instead of worrying about trying to get people out to register, to vote, to do that thing, to really educate people about how do you work together to force those who make the rules in your community to actually put a rule in that the community needs or wants versus, them just doing whatever the donors do. Because I'm starting, I believe that part of the problem is everybody just talks about voting. And nobody talks about like the reason, like what you actually need to get things done. Because just doing a vote is not going to get the majority of things done that a community needs. There are other things that have to come into play. Is that like wild thinking on my part, or is this a worthwhile?
No, I think you're absolutely right. The problem is accountability. The people that the people that run for political office, they're not accountable to the community. They're not accountable. Excuse me. They're not accountable to the people, and so unless we could build, this is what I meant about bringing grassroots leaders and having grassroots leaders run for these political offices in local representation, because if we are running on what I call the Humpty Dumpty principle, then we're not sending politicians to city halls. We're not sending politicians to state capitals. We're sending activists. We're sending people representatives. And their job is not to get reelected. Their job is to create the type of dynamics and the type of conditions so that our needs are met, so that our demands can be put forward. And if they get reelected, It's because we're able to mobilize on that. If they don't get reelected, then the enemy won't be able to put that shit back together again. Okay, so because when we have a black mayor that comes up in a major city, he could make the police adhere to a community complaint, a community public safety board. He could create one out of thin air just by decree. He could order the police to be accountable. He could order residency clauses for new recruits out of the academy for the first 2 years. They have to live in the community they work in. So the mayor or the chief executive can do a lot of things that can't be would be very difficult to be undone after 3 or 4 years in office. And the people become accustomed to these things and understand how these things work. That somebody has to come in and undo it all, and that's the job. You see, and so we don't see our struggles in those tactical and strategic ways. So we don't have politicians that are accountable to us. It's that simple. Right. Anybody can get up. Or Cory Booker could come into the black community tomorrow, stand in the middle of Newark and give a speech about how he supports Israel, and nothing will happen to him. Mm-hmm. Whereas what's supposed to happen to him is he's supposed to get eggs thrown at him. He's supposed to get his ass whipped on the way to the podium. Okay? So when there's no accountability, when anybody can stand up and say anything in the black community, that means we're just an open book. You know, you can't go into parts of Staten Island and stand on the corner in a residential area and say anything, and there's no consequences. True. You can't even sell Kool-Aid there if you're black. You're gonna have a Karen come out and tell you what you're doing here selling Kool-Aid. But you have black elected officials that could come into our community and pontificate about how they support a corporation, or how they want more people in jail, or how they want to do certain things that's clearly not in the interest of the black community, and they get away with it. So I'm of the old school. There has to be some accountability, and that accountability begins with anybody that comes to speak to us in our community has to have community clearance, community security. The people have to want to hear what he got to say. They may not agree with it, but he has the credibility where he could say it. Right now, anybody could come in and say anything. And I mean, you got rappers that can't even do a video recording in the hood without paying off the gangsters not to snatch their chain.
Yeah, I'm always hearing people talk about I gotta check in when I go here, go check in. But politically,
you don't have to check nothing. All you got to do is roll up with the local police squad. You understand? Roll up, get a bullhorn, and say anything. You see, nobody smacks the bullhorn out of his hand. Nobody say, man, I'm going to take this assault beef right now, you know, and put their foot in his ass, you know. Nobody. You see, so there's no accountability, sister. You know, and I don't want to necessarily use those graphic, those violently graphic images, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. We have to elect representatives or put representatives up from amongst us that have proven themselves in our community, that have proven their integrity, that have fought for us. You see, and the majority of people that do these things in our community, they don't even want elective office. A lot of them don't even want it. You practically got to push them into it. You see, that's the type of person that we need.
And that is the hard part, right? Because it's a dangerous foray, like going into the political space. You know, you're putting a lot out there, right? They're gonna start coming for the family. They start digging in your business. That it can get like actually violent, right? There's a lot that you're putting on the table if you decide to go down that path. And you're right. The people who should most do it are the people who are like, I'm not getting involved in that. I'll just keep organizing and I'll do it quietly and try and fix what I can. So that's the trick. Like how do you get somebody who is actually trustworthy?
Well, this is why we have to have a united front of organizations that's still doing their work. We have a united front, and this united front has a leadership or coordinating body that consists of members and activists from all of the different organizations, and each organization pledges a certain degree of discipline to the united front based on principle, not necessarily based on who could talk the loudest, who got the most money, but based on principles of coalition and stuff. We could argue based on principle, but we can't argue when it comes down to subjective matters and beefs that we have over things. But principle is what we need, and we don't have any principle leadership because we don't have a principle movement. So building a movement right now is paramount, and I think that the best way to go about doing that is to start out with a united front, is to start out with creating a common massive database so that organizations who are part of this united front can draw from this database, that we can use this common information and database to put together press conferences, to put together statements, to come out of solidarity with each other's movements in real time, that we could that we could then begin to inform the public through whatever means that we have available to ourselves, a common line, a common understanding of where we are at right now in the 21st century in terms of this country, in terms of where African people of African ancestry are at, where the United States is going globally, and what's in it for working class people. What is our future here? We need a united front. And
all right, Dhoruba, I think on that perfect note, we need to start to wrap up here because I want to make sure we got time to stretch and get everybody over to Warrior class at 1:00. So I just and let me let you get some take a break, get some water, and recuperate.
Yeah,
and we'll happily have you back. What'd you say? Have a bourbon?
There's stuff that's burning here. That's why.
Oh, I thought you said have a bourbon. I was about to say, hold up, man. Nah. Yeah, go ahead and take what you take care, man. We appreciate you, Dhoruba. We'll between this show and the platform, we'll have you back soon. Yeah.
All right.
And I'm gonna email you because now I got your email. You can't get rid of me now.
That's right, Sister Love.
I'm gonna start stalking you over email.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. Y'all be cool, man. Power to the people, man.
Likewise, right on. Power to the people.
Yourself.
Thanks, Dhoruba. Peace, man. All right,
he was gonna fight through that, man. He was.
Oh yeah, no question.
He was gonna fight through it.
No question, and we appreciate it.
Definitely.
But got to be respectful of his health and, of course, the time, because I don't want no problems. I don't want no problem. So anything you want to wrap us up with?
Do you want to? There was a a super chat. I don't know if you.
Oh, really? Hold on, my bad. So we got a couple here. So Librarian, thank you very much. Welcome. Gifted 5 memberships. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Wow, that's dope. And then came back again. It's so gross because cops don't even live in the communities they're oppressing and extracting from. That's exactly right. Thank you very much. Kenyatta, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you, Latif, for reminding everybody to like and share. Thank you very much. And Robert Brown, didn't want to say nothing, just dropping a couple ducats on the platform. Thank you very much as well. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Dhoruba is absolutely an African treasure.
Definitely.
So
definitely. All right. Well, go stretch. Go,
time to go stretch. Get hydrated.
Out.
Yo, I need it this week too. It's been a rough a rough week for your boy. This back issue is oof. All right, Renee, thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Look forward to next week. We will be back with much more. As always, like Fred Hampton used to say, to you, peace if you're willing to fight for it, only if you're willing to fight for it. And we'll be back next week with more. Saturday. with Renee.
I love that you figured it out. I love it.
I'm very excited. So I'm going to hit it one more time, and then we're going to get out of here for real. I just want us to enjoy that one real quick. All right, peace, everybody.
Peace.
Saturday with Renee.